Hey guys, Jalen from TeamBurningInfinitey. Yeah, sorry it's been so long. Trust me, an update video is coming for 2019 in our plans. But first things first, I want you guys to have a deck profile at least. So before I go for the update video, here's this. This is my Mystic Knights deck profile. I fully foiled out this deck because I really like it, and I think it's pretty good. Of course, we have the Note Hibikase flag. One off note, I love his name. And then of course our buddy is Magic Singer Sync. He's a 626 size 1, 2 gauge, top deck 2 soul call cost. He has Soul Guard and his two main abilities where when you cast a fire spell, you for the turn all Mystic Knights gain 3k. It's not once per turn, so of course it keeps stacking the more fire spells you use. And once you enter your attack phase, once he's reached 12,000 or more power, all Mystic Knights for the turn get double attack. Just so you know, for anyone that's new to the deck, or just how for this turn works, basically it's similar to things like Loud Voice, where it's for this turn, so even if newer cards come out, they still get the stat change. So if I call a new Mystic Knight, even like say I have just Sync on field, and then I cast like 3 fire spells, so now he's at 15k power. So now, even if I call Asagi afterward, they didn't have to be on field to get the boost, so they will get the boost once they hit the field and stay there. So just a really great ability, and it's always key to remember your stat boosts. Just so you know you can get his ability off, because it's really good. It's what enables this size 1 rush deck to do so well. He's the best card, obviously. 2 copies of Magic Keyboardist Shion. Shion is a 6/1/1 size 1, and with the ability where if it has 6k or more power, it gets +2 critical, and then it has the counteract to stand a Mystic Knight with 9k or more power once per turn. Like, I don't think it's like bad, but I do think it's mediocre compared to the rest of them, so that's why I choose to play 2 Shion. Because in matchups where, say, resting happens a lot, I kind of like Shion to help get around that a little bit. Other than that, he's not really great, because he's just big crit, which I can do already with Knight. Then we get on to the 4 ofs, because I don't play any 3 ofs, and I just think everything else is pretty good at 4. We have 4 Magic Basis Asagi. When it enters the field, and you have a Mystic Knight, gauge and draw. 3-on-1 stats. It's the Garcadic deck. It's good. It's great. It's whatever. Of course, the gauge and draw is what you just keep loving to spam with this card. It's pretty replaceable on field after it does its job. Then we have 4 copies of the Magic Guitarist Hisui of 3/2/1 size 1. And when it attacks, I get to drop the top card of my deck into the drop zone. If it's a fire, I add it to my hand and deal my opponent 1 damage. Just, of course, really good with the double attack, and it's just one of the best turn 1 plays, because you just swing, you most likely get a draw, and you burn your opponent 1 damage. So you do 3 damage, unless you have also Knight, because then Knight will boost the crit. Speaking of Knight, we have 4 copies of Magic Manipulator Knight. He's a 3/1/1 size 1, with the amazing ability of preventing your Mystic Knights from being destroyed by card effects, or have their abilities nullified by your opponent's card effects. And when he has 6k or more power when he enters the battle, all your Mystic Knights for the turn get an extra critical. Just really great for helping push damage and making sure your plays are safe. I wish there was one that also prevented resting, but hey, can't have everything. This is still really great. Helps from matchups like Dragon Bloodsec and a little bit of Lost World. So it's just pretty good. And next up, we have 4 copies of Magic Violinist Gray, 6/1/1 size 1. And when it enters the field, I get a gauge. Gray's in battle and has 9k or more power. It nullifies the abilities of the monster it's battling. So really good to get over like big Soul Guard monsters if they don't have any of their stuff that prevents their ability to be nullified. Like you face a Thora and they don't have their item, or if you face Dragon Bloodsec and they don't have their set spell, you can just really it helps you get over a lot of big things without having to deal with all of its soul. Then we have 4 copies of the Buddy, no more explanation there, already went over him. 2 copies of Revolution of Red. It has a 5 gauge cast cost, but the gauge cost is reduced for each different fire in your drop. I'm not even kidding, the most gauge I've ever paid for this card is 1. I've never paid more, because getting fires in your drop, since literally all of your Mystic Knight spells and all of your monsters are all of different fire, I usually by turn 1 always have 5 different fire. I just by casting or paying gauge, regardless. Anyway, counter, destroy up to 2 cards in your opponent's field. I just really like this card because it's pretty underrated. I don't see too many lists run it, but I do really like it because it's another fire spell, of course, and just in general, the counter destruction. Yeah, counter destruction is not great right now, but just the fact that it's most likely free and that it can catch your opponent off guard, and there are a pretty decent amount of decks that are relevant right now that are still able to be destroyed by card effect. Then we have 2 copies of Great Spell Circle of Deity Dragon. This is the one of only 7 spells that are not fire in my deck, but just for great utility. It boosts Deity Dragon Tribe by 1k, not relevant. What's relevant is its main ability. At the start of your opponent's turn, you can choose a spell from your drop zone and then discard a hand card. If you do, then you can add that spell that you target back to your hand. Of course, you can only set 1 of these, and the ability is once per turn. It is absolutely amazing. My main combo with this is Wings of Revolt, because you can use it during your turn to draw a card and then boost your stats, so you just get your sync threshold for the double attack, and then you just grab it back next turn, basically for free, because it always gives you a draw when you cast it, to grab Wings of Revolt, so then you can use its defensive side of an effect on their turn, getting back Nulls or Sephiroth's Lecture. Speaking of which, we have 2 copies of Sephiroth's Lecture. You can only cast this card if you've casted a spell this turn. Counter, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, add 1 of them to hand and then the other one to gauge. You can only cast Sephiroth's Lecture once per turn. Just generic gauge and draw for all of Magic World. It's pretty good. I've never not been able to get this off. Of course, it's Magic World, you always cast spells, so just a pretty good card. I just only run 2 because it's not a fire spell. Then, of course, Magic World's bread and butter spell, nice one. Cast cost, pay 1 gauge, draw 2, and then you can only cast nice ones once per turn. I, of course, really like this card just for the sake of it's just a draw 2, and gauge is not hard to come by in this deck. Thanks to Gray, Asagi, Flame Quartet, just really good and easy. Next up, we have finally on the 4 ofs and all the fire spells left. We have Wings of Revolt. I believe the best spell in the entire deck. All you need is a Mystic Knight on the field to cast it. And either effect you choose, you draw a card. The first effect, it's not counter, and you give your Mystic Knights for the turn 6k power. And then the counter effect, you can give your Mystic Knights 6k defense for the turn. Absolutely amazing. If you really can't get a fire spell like quickly in your hand, you can just, or you can't cast 2, like you only have 1, just use Wings of Revolt with sync, and then you immediately have the 12k threshold for his power for his ability. Wings of Revolt is the best card due to its offensive and defensive capabilities, not only getting off sync for an easy cast, but also just for being able to disrupt your opponent on their turn when they want to swing over your sync with double Soul Guard, and then you just say, well, now I have 15k defense, so have fun with that. Next up, we have 4 copies of Flame Quartet. Flame Quartet requires you have a Mystic Knight in your field in order to get 2 gauge and 2 life. It is a hard once per turn, but it does have a great effect of, at the beginning of your main phase, you can drop a hand card and grab this card from the drop zone to your hand. So if you're really in need of getting another fire spell to your hand, you don't have Wings of Revolt, you have Droplets of Temptation or Flame of Memories, but you need that second fire spell, Flame Quartet can come back when you do need it. So it's really great. The 2 gauge and 2 life is really helpful. It's kind of all the life gain the deck has, but it's great nonetheless. Next up, we have an absolutely amazing card for the deck. Flame of Memories is a cast cost of pay 1 gauge and drop a Mystic Knight from your hand to the drop zone, and you draw 3, and it's only once per turn. Of course, a great fire spell to have. It's absolutely freaking crazy that you get 3 draws. Dropping a Mystic Knight is not hard. I play plenty of monsters. The item is a Mystic Knight. So just, it's so good. It's so good. And we have 4 copies of Droplets of Temptation. There's a pay 1 gauge and 1 life cast cost. And you get to add a Mystic Knight with sync in its name to your hand, from your deck to your hand, as well as up to 1 item, 1 Mystic Knight item for your deck to your hand. So for a gauge and life, you get sync and an item. It's just pretty great. You can only cast 1 once per turn. I really like this card. If I really just have an opening hand, which I hardly ever do, without sync, I will use this, grab sync, and then I'll have 2 gauge to just use sync. Then I'll use Flame Quartet. Then I'll use Flame of Memories. It's just you really get your plays going. The item's free, so it's just a great trade-off. Then the last of the spells, we have 4 copies of Deep Blaze Singularity. Deep Blaze Singularity is a null that costs 1 gauge, and you can only do it during an attack on your opponent's turn. You have a Mystic Knight. Nullify the attack, and for the turn, your opponent's cards get minus 3k power. So it's basically a pseudo loud voice. I wish it lowered crit as well, but that would be pretty ridiculously strong. But it's really great because, of course, combo with sync. Then basically there's a 6k difference once you cast this, and then you can still cast more fire spells to make your stats even higher. And they can say you're facing things like Garga, even if they G-Evo into a new form, that also has lowered power, so that can really start biting them in the butt when they start to think about how they have to get over stuff now. Then lastly, we have 3 copies of Magic Guitar Kinari. It is a 4/1 item. It's free to equip, and it can only attack through the center, even if you have a Mystic Knight. And its main ability, when it has 7k or more power, it gets an extra critical, and its attack cannot be nullified when it's attacking alone. Absolutely great, because all it needs is a single boost, and then it's at a 2 crit 7k threshold, or 7k or more threshold, depending on how many spells you casted with sync. It's absolutely nuts with Knight, or multiple Knights, because it can be 3 crit or 4 crit even, and it can be nullified, and it'll have double attack, so it can do massive damage, and it's just another Mystic Knight on board, so just even more damage and more cards to give double attack to with Sync's ability. Anyway, I hope you guys like this video. Subscribe to TeamBurningInfinitey for more Buddyfight content, and we'll come back with much, much more. Jalen from TeamBurningInfinitey going out.